Hey everybody, we are live. This is Kurt Molly and Mr. Jeff Schechter here. Good to see everybody. Hey, that's awesome, Shecky. You know what I didn't realize is when we have followers on our YouTube channel, they automatically get notified.
Great.
Live. Yeah, there's an email that's sent out, which is great. So we're going to get started here in just a couple of seconds, but I know a bunch of people typically will just pile right on these things, which is great. So Shecky, I'm going to run a couple of tests. Shecky, you can hear me okay? Is that right?
Yeah, the sound's actually pretty decent.
That's great. Your sound pretty decent. Yep, we've got a bunch of people that are just jumping on right now, so we're going to get started here in just a second. Again, great to see everybody here. That's really good. So yeah, when you subscribe to our channel, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. When you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you get an automatic email. I'm going to forward that over to you and Nick, which is actually just a great email that gets sent out as a reminder. Okay. So, whoops, got to make sure that we're sending this to Shecky's right email to make sure that you get it. Great, Shecky. I'm going to go ahead and send that on over. And again, we are recording for those people that are live. Oh, Shecky, you know, one important thing that I got to update just briefly while everyone's here is Blab. Since we're not broadcasting on Blab right now, I at least want to make sure that I put out a link just to let everybody know where we're at because this is the regular time we broadcast. Shecky, one of the things is we've been talking about recently, like on our little bike ride adventures and stuff, we have been talking about the one thing. And it's the one thing concerning really someone's specific avatar. Shecky, would you mind just going in just for a minute to start us off from a 10,000-foot view while I check one of these settings? Do you find that a lot of people skip the avatar creation process, really focusing on their avatar? And what's really important to focus on your avatar as you're starting to pick that up? Because obviously that builds to everything else.
Well, it's a great question. And I would not say that people necessarily don't do the avatar exercise. I think what's happening is they're not doing it as fully and deeply as they could. And here's what I mean by that. So like, for example, when I'm on a consulting call and I say like, look, who's your best avatar? Like, who's your perfect customer, you know, describe them to me. And then we'll immediately go into a conversation that's very demographic, right? In other words, well, they're females that are age 35 to 50, and they're typically married, and they're, you know, 20 to 30 pounds overweight. They've got a couple kids, you know, that sort of thing, right? So, you know, they make about X amount of money, and they have interests in X, Y, and Z. Okay, and those are all really important things, right? Like there's no question that it's important from a standpoint of building audiences and things like that. But when I say avatar, when we say avatar, we're talking specifically about what the most perfect customer could be, right? Or who the perfect customer is. And in that regard, I want to know more. Like I want a description of this woman, exactly who she is, what age she is. If she's 42 and a half, I want to know that. If she's in a not so perfect marriage and, you know, maybe it's not quite as passionate or romantic as it used to be 10 years ago before she had her kids, I want to know that. If she's, you know, the kind of person that has trouble sleeping at night, I want to know that. So we want to not only go to that layer, but we want to go to the next layer too. So layer one would be demographics. Layer two would be kind of sort of all those other things that are more particular about her life. But layer three is when we really start getting into that conversation of what we're going to have today, namely that one thing. So when we'll just call her Judy for the sake of argument here. Please. When Judy finally, at the end of a tough day, lays her head on that pillow and she's exhausted, right? And her brain is going so her brain is going so much that she probably can't sleep. And she's worrying about something. She's actually worrying, for the most part, about one thing. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't necessarily know what that is, but when we speak to you, when I say you, I mean everybody out there in marketing land, then that's where you really have to put some brain cell power of you as a marketer into really thinking hard about what is that one thing that Judy cannot get off her mind? What is the one thing that's keeping Judy up at night? You know, like maybe it's it depends on your niche, obviously. Maybe it's just a financial issue. It's something like, gosh, you know, my kids are in school, and you know, my husband only makes X amount of money, and I've got this little part-time job on the side, and we've got rent, and we've got groceries, and just, gosh, everything just keeps going up. And I read stuff about middle class being squeezed out and blah, 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 blah. So for her, it's like, is there going to be enough money to really provide for my family properly? She's beyond the point where she's worried about savings. She's just worried about making ends meet, right? Like that's, and I'm not saying that this is every avatar, every Judy that's out there. I'm just trying to give you a general description of what it could be or what it looks like when you really start dialing into that one thing. And there's no question, when you hit that one thing, it is something extremely emotional. There's really very little logic associated to it. And it is the kind of thing that from an emotional standpoint is going to keep somebody up at night, or it's going to make them do funny things like tug on their hair or bite their nails or have a nervous tick or something where they just cannot get that thing out of their mind. So that's what we mean by the one thing.
Absolutely. So I am setting up a quick notification here, Shecky, which is awesome. I'm going to tell everybody, I'm setting this up over on Blab. It's kind of interesting when we have just a bunch of social media sites that kind of converge and combine over to others. But join Shecky and I live on our Google Hangout that is taking place here. There we go.
Yeah, I already told you Blab is dead to me.
See the entire conversation and just don't see me. See Shecky also. And then I'm going to explain this one more time to everybody just because I took a little time typing this. And thank you for explaining about the avatar. So see Shecky also as well too. So this is great. Oh, and of course I got to give them our one most important link, Shecky, where people can always find out more about us. You can always find out more about us here. All right. So a couple of things here. Shecky, we got a bunch of people who are joining us right now, which is great. By the way, I love these Google Hangouts because, you know, it shows live right on our YouTube channel, which we're running some advertising with and loving some of our early YouTube results. And on top of that, seeing some people over from Blab. So let's go from a 10,000. Let's go over from a 10,000 foot view about Avatar, and then I'm going to drop down a little bit and I'll explain Blab and our Hangouts and stuff like that. So our avatar. Now, ideally, is Shecky and I have a kind of a pretty sort of good idea of who our avatar is. I have a pretty good idea, but Shecky and I don't know for sure. The only way we can know for sure is by doing a deep dive research study. Now, I do want to show you this. This is something we're definitely going to be talking about over the next couple of weeks, is the deep dive study. Ryan Levesque's book, Ask. I highly encourage all of you to check out this book. Tell them that Kurt got it. I'm actually in the book, one of the very last pages, which is great. It's one of the claims of fame. But what Ryan basically does is he talks about a process in where he basically just asks his customer and his best avatar, what specifically do they want? So what happens is that sounds like it's really common sense. But what Ryan does is Ryan first starts with a deep dive survey. Now, that deep dive survey could be to an audience, to a list he already has, or he may just build it through online ads. He just wants people to ask a question, what matters to them most? Now, I have the unique advantage that we do in our company that Shecky speaks to many of our Scale students, all of our Scale students, and all of our Social Media Ad Genius students as well too. So we're able to hear exactly what people are saying. Now, Shecky keeps track of this information so we can see it's quantifiable. Though I may want to talk about how to scale someone's business very quickly, if someone's just starting out, scaling their business doesn't really matter. So it's really important that we're speaking to people who who are just starting out and want to learn how to run ads, that we're not showing them, hey, here's how to scale your business to take it from $1,000 to $100,000. We just want to show them how to make that first $100. Because if we're talking too much about scaling someone's business and they're brand new, it's going to turn them off from their message. So one of the things that Ryan Levesque does is he goes into Ask, and he shows you how to, in chapter number 13, how to deep dive and ask your avatar, regardless if you have a list or not, to find out exactly what they want. Now, I'm going to give you a quick little story that Ryan tells about his personal orchid business. One of the interesting things that Ryan does is he gets people over to his main website, and he says, again, it's for flowers. Do you have problems with your leaves turning yellow, dropping off within a couple of weeks, or does your orchid not only bloom once instead of annually? Fill out this quick survey to find out what type of problem you may have. Well, there's some scientific words that Ryan uses in there that he talks about inside of his book. But what he's doing is he's using those 3 different types because of his deep dive survey. He knows that a majority of his customers are looking for those 3 things. It's very important. See, what ends up happening then is Ryan talks to his customer directly. So what Shecky and I have found out is, and what we preach, is every single week we want to put brand new content in front of our viewers, just like you. We have people who sign up on our email address, people who sign up for our email newsletter. Shecky talks to people who join our Social Media Genius family and our Scale family, and people talk about, hey, we like to see weekly content. This is why we put on weekly content, because you can see that there are people here right now and lots of people ask for the recording. Well, during that weekly content, we talk about subject matter that we're training on, so people can show up to one of our free live trainings that we do every so often. Well, what happens is we want to make sure it is as easy as possible for you to attend this live training as our avatar. We have gotten feedback that it is very important that it is easy for you, regardless if you are on your tablet, if you are on your laptop, or if you are on your cell phone. You just want to be able, because you've told us to click on a link and just view exactly this right here in just one click. So the reason we decided to leave Blab is because it was no longer an easy one click for you. It was no longer easy for you to quickly solve a problem by quickly joining us. Notice I use the word quickly a lot. So knowing from our avatar, it's very important that when we put on these live events, we let everybody know about the live events and the recording, and we want to make sure that's really accessible to you. Now, Shecky, one of the things that we were doing this morning that you saw in my email, as we were going out for our bike ride, I've gotten some questions from some of our Scale family members when we're talking about really scaling their business, and it really was rooted back to avatar creation. So Shecky, one of the things that we talked about is the 4 pillars, and one of the comments that you've always made is you've said to me, Kurt, we have these 4 pillars, which is, do you have a product, service, or message that you can monetize? Number 2, do you have an avatar that you can market to? Do you have it defined? Number 3, are you using the 12 steps of scale? And number 4, do you have proof for everything that you're doing? And Shecky, you would make the comment of, hey, look, we're already training the avatar in one of the 12 steps. Why do we mention it also in the 4 pillars? Well, it's super important that you can see this, that I've told Shecky this, is like when everything goes to crap, right? And you're like, oh my goodness, I don't understand any of my numbers. I don't know what's going on. All right, let's start at the very basics. Do you have a product, service, message that you're selling? Yes. Now, you never know if your product, service, or message can work until the market votes with their dollars, right? That market, step 2, is going to be your avatar. Now, a lot of people say, hey, I know who to target. Like we were just recently talking about Shecky as a student of ours. Hey, I know who to target ages 20 to 59. Shecky, I am 38 years old. You are under 60. And the way that people talk to me, or the way that people talk to you, or the way that people would talk to my youngest brother who's 25, would that copy and image be different for each one of those age groups, or would that copy work the same for all 3 age groups?
Well, first of all, it's untested, but at first blush for me, it would make sense to me that there's 3 different avatars there just because of the spread in age range, and there's a very high likelihood that both the images and the copy, the language itself of the ad, should be structured differently for those 3 different kinds of people. Now, as you know, I'm pretty young at heart, and I hang out with a lot of people that are younger than I am. However, I don't talk like a 25-year-old.
Right.
And not every third word that comes out of my mouth is the word like. So I just I didn't grow up that way. But people that are, in my opinion, just typically under 30 tend to rely on that word like you know what I mean? Like they just use that word like in their conversation all the time. Like that's just kind of like what they do. So I'm not judging, I'm just observing here, but the use of the word like, as it were, for that audience would probably do pretty well depending on the kind of ad that it was. Because it's language, that's just maybe a crappy example, but it just is there to define that, every different generation is typically will have its own language patterns.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other thing to be said there too, Kurt, is that different niches have different language patterns. I'll give you a for instance, right? Like I am not what you'd call like I like scientific stuff, but I'm not like a science nerd, right? So, I'm the kind of guy that's probably a little bit more touchy-feely. So, if you talk to me in terms of more emotional things for a guy that's a little bit older, that's cool. That's probably something I'm going to resonate with. However, there's also a lot of other people my age that are really into like, sci-fi, Star Wars, that kind of techie, nerdy sort of thing, which I'm really not into. But that niche has its own kind of language that I just don't speak, but they do. So, the point there is that, as you're dialing in that avatar, you really want to think not just about their age, but about their other interests, what other, affinities, that we use that word, are they associated with? And as such, what would their natural language patterns be like as a result of being part of those groups?
Yeah, you want to be able to put people into separate buckets. You want to be able to just because, like, for example, what happens is after you start running some traffic, you're always buying data, right? The data is just going to help you make better decisions. So we recently spent $758 on YouTube ads over the course of 3 weeks. Well, what did it do? It just gave me a bunch of data. It helped me understand what groups will attract at what cost, how many people will view each individual video. Now, the great thing about buying that type of data when advertising on YouTube, same thing if you advertise on Facebook, now I can make better decisions. So like I told Shecky, I'm like, look, what I know is that as we're targeting people, the people who I'm targeting 35 to 55, 35 to 44 has a lot higher probability of people clicking on us with a little bit lower cost. However, 44 through 55 watch our videos a little bit more and have a higher probability of opting in and taking action, depending on whether that's done for you system or if they're learning from our social media ad genius funnel. I'm now learning more about what age group is engaging with our content. Okay, so that's gonna help me refine my ads a little bit. Remember Brian Johnson, how we noticed that his ads were 95% female, but that wasn't necessarily who he was talking to?
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. It wasn't even on his radar.
It wasn't even on his radar. So the reason I'm bringing up the avatar, it's kind of interesting. Like Shecky, we talk to a lot of different skill levels, right? Beginner, intermediate, advanced, or what we like to call it, genius level. And what's interesting, like I was just talking to a client who's in the online marketing, network marketing space, and they've made millions over the year. They're just absolutely just brilliant. Talking really about making sure that they have the right content in front of people. But you got to make sure you know your right avatar. And what so many times happens, people can spend a couple $100, couple $1,000, couple $100,000 and not have a clearly defined avatar, and some of that money goes to waste. And I want to give you two examples. Number one, if you're only running website clicks, well, you can retarget people. But if you have people who like your page, you can always do a boost post to your like campaigns. You can always retarget to your likes. Typically, retargeting back to your likes is going to be less expensive than if you run website clicks. Typically, it depends on how large your audience is, but we can follow up with people at a low cost. Now, let me give you just very open transparency, like for example with Brian. So with Brian, we were running, and we are running nutritional ads about if people would like to be interested in nutrition, both male, female, and Brian is targeting 35 to 55 and people who like entrepreneurship, nutrition being one of them. What we found out from Brian's stats is we found out that 95% of women were responding with her ads. Okay, great. So since we found out that 95% of women were responding to him, I asked Brian, let's just take a look back at your avatar. Are these specifically the people that you want to target? And he's like, no, it's not. That's not really who I want to target. I seem to relate to men more, which is fine, not a big deal. But we just got to make sure then that our language is written around specifically for men. So here's what ends up happening. What we're able to do, which I just love, is we know that Brian is targeting people all based around nutrition. Okay, great. We also know that we follow up with a nutritional video directly for Brian, and it's a penny cost for Brian to get people to watch his video, right? Great, so that makes sense. So we get 9-cent likes, a penny to watch his video. So now what we do is we retarget people from people who watch his video, people who like his page. We retarget those over to his opt-in page that says, get my 7 nutritional videos and you can opt in. Well, Brian's opt-in rate, just to have full disclosure, is around 15%. Ideally, we want it around 30, but he's a beginner. 15% is not bad. If we get it to 30, Brian's going to see his lead cost probably be around 50 cents. That is awesome. But if we've run a like campaign and we've properly defined our avatar, but they haven't opted in yet, but they did like our page, we can follow up if we have a clearly defined avatar. So for instance, as we're working with Brian's landing page, well, what other content can we put in front of his likes? Because they already like his page, just like how else would we follow up with his email list, right? If they were to opt in. If we properly define an avatar, our landing page may be wrong, our sales page may be wrong, but we always have a way to follow up because we're doing our weekly boost post. I had a question recently, kind of a second story, is I had a question recently from a client who says, hey, look, I've been doing this for a very long time. Shecky, you and I talked about this, her, you know who exactly that is, this morning. And she's like, I've been doing this for a really long time. The problem is I'm not really seeing any sales and I'm not seeing any opt-ins like I thought I would be by this point. Remember, the market's going to vote with their wallet. You may have a brilliant idea, but until your avatar decides to purchase, you don't know if the idea works or not. So what we do is we go back to the very basics. Do we have a product service message we can monetize? Yes, we have a book and a training course. It's great. Hasn't sold yet, like we've sold some to friends and family. We haven't figured out how to consistently sell it yet, but that's at least the solution we have. It's great. Do we know the avatar that's going to be targeted? Yes. So we know the exact avatar, and we start targeting a like campaign. Have been for $5 a day for the last 6 months. We got lots of people to follow up with. Now we start boosting posts that would be highly relevant to that avatar, what we believe is highly relevant to that avatar. The only way we're going to know it's relevant is by spending some money, investing some money, and seeing what those typical boost post costs would be. And are they relevant? If we get a high relevance score from our like ads, great. If we're getting a high relevance score from our content ads, like Brian's retargeting video back to his likes, great. Now what we do is we set up a third retargeting either video or blog post to send people back to a call to action on a website. So let's just say they've gone through what we call 4 different hops, right? Let's just say they've liked your page, great. You should always have a piece of content, whether it's a blog or a video, that you're refollowing up for $5 a day, retargeting everybody who likes your page. When you do that, you're going to build, ideally, you're going to build relevance, right? As long as the people liked your page, let's say with Brian about nutrition, you follow up with a video about nutrition for $5 a day. It's congruent. Now, Brian's going to do at least 2 boost posts a week about content about nutrition. That's why people liked his page. So he's going to do a boost post on nutrition. Let's just say that's 23 cents a click. He's going to do another boost post on Thursday. Let's just say that's another 23 cents a click. Now what we do is we have 4 exposures for under $1. Now, this is all laid out in the case study. And if you click up to the very right up there, there's a little annotation. It'll take you to one of the case studies when we're done here, by the way. But what happens is now we know that there's 4 contact points for under $1. Now, when we retarget people back to the landing page, if they don't opt in, well, they still like the page. They still see Brian's follow-up introduction video, and they're still seeing the weekly content. But they didn't opt in. Okay, well, instead of just sending a website click one time and then trying to figure out the opt-in and retargeting people to opt in, we're going to keep on doing those boost posts to stay in front of people. So how do we know if we're targeting the right audience? Well, as you're growing your fan page, you'll be able to look into audience insights. And when you look into audience insights, it'll give you more insights of these people, did they graduate high school, graduate college? What kind of house do they live in? The more traffic that you run, remember this, Shecky, is we decided with Brian said, hey, can we just split test out males and females? Also, very important, we found out that over 90% of the traffic was coming in just on Android phones, not on iPhones. So what we did now is we're targeting women and men 50-50 just on Android phones. His cost is coming down even more. I've been seeing 7 and 8 cent likes. So now we know they're highly qualified likes. So we have that number down. Now we're putting those nutritional posts in front of people, and we're retargeting people who like his page. But what we're always doing is we're always looking, once a week, we're looking at his audience insights. Or do we see any changes in his fan page? You got to have over 1,500 people that really start doing audience insights deep dives. We do that once a week. We also go and look at the insights of his Facebook posts as well, too, on his fan page. Which posts are getting the biggest engagement? The biggest engagement ideally should be turned into ads as part of our 12-step process. But if the landing page isn't working, we go back to the 4 keystones. Got a product, service, and message? Yep. Well, we haven't really been able to monetize that as much as we thought, so that might not be proven in the market, but we've really defined our avatar. So now we get to think about, like what Brian has, well, if people aren't opting in on a regular basis to his page, but he's retargeting with a like campaign, what video or piece of content can he put in front of his avatar that may be his avatar's one thing? See, Brian's trained on about, I don't know, Shecky, 10, 15 different modalities. Yeah. Body language, nutrition. You got to focus on one. Now, your one thing might not be your avatar's one thing. So what Brian does is he does a lot of Facebook Live events twice a week, and he asks questions. What do you want to learn about more? What can I give you more clarification on? So one of the things that I suggest for a solution, buy the book Ask by Ryan Levesque. We're going to be talking a lot more about him in the next couple of weeks, but this is definitely a book to get now. That the further that you define your avatar, not only will you get some demographics questions, again, chapter 13 is what you want to read, but he's going to give you a deep dive that you're going to be able to, your language in your ads going to match the language of what the one thing is for your individual customer. See, for example, if I'm going to talk to somebody about a beginner, I'm going to show them how to set up a fan page, run a like campaign, build relevancy. Someone who's a genius level, according to us for genius level, I'm going to show them how to set up a like campaign to build the relevancy so they have long-term scale. But I'm using 2 different languages and 2 different phrasings with 2 different groups. So, number 1, read this, chapter 13. We're going to be talking a lot more about this over the next couple of weeks. Number 2, look at your like demographics and the ads that you're running. So you may be targeting 35 to 55 or whatever your age group is. Look and see who's clicking on your ads. Do you have 1,000 people, whether it's 1,000 clicks or 1,000 impressions, who's clicking on your ads? What's the age range? Here's the other thing. Ask. Ask in a Facebook post. Ask an email. Shecky, one of our favorite, I don't want to say tricks because it's true, it works, is sending out an email and asking people to do what?
Reply.
That's it. It's an engaging conversation. Shecky, will you talk about that strategy? Because what I really want to get people down to, and you see this all the time, is using their avatar's own language in their ads. Would you mind just kind of talking about, because I've gone over this whole kind of relevancy thing in avatar, how we further define our avatar, like by some of those methods on how we ask people to reply?
Well, you bring up an interesting point. You bring up a few interesting points. One is, when you talk about using audience insights, what's cool about doing that is, now you're looking at real data. So, you could make your initial guesses about demographics, but now you're getting back what the real true demographics are, right? So, even though I made the point earlier that you got to dive a lot deeper than the demographics, it's certainly still very helpful to know exactly, because we see a lot of people where, and ourselves included on many of our campaigns, that it's like, oh, well, that's not exactly what I originally thought, right?
Yeah.
So it's good, and it allows you to kind of dial it in. So that's just, one point I want to make. And it might, if you're really doing a good job and doing that deep dive about, like what's their one thing, what's the thing that keeps them up at night, that may shift just a little bit. And it also may shift into the way you're actually engaging with them and even asking the questions to find out and validate if that is indeed their one thing, right? So it may just be in the way that you're phrasing the questions. But if I feel like what you're asking me is more about the the strategy within email and that sort of stuff, about how to really directly engage, yeah, there's a couple pieces to talk about there. One of them is global to all of your marketing, and that is this. So that when you are dialing in that avatar, and when you're talking about Judy, let's say, you use June because I know that's your mom's name, right? But it's important to name that person. Now, why do we name that person? Well, we name them because we ourselves want to really be connected. We want to be intimate with that person. Right? I don't necessarily mean intimate sexually. I'm just saying.
I knew you were going to say that.
But I was talking about your mom here, so I know it's really creepy. But but I'm saying, like, do we really, really want to know this person and really, really connect with them on a deep level? So the only way to do that is for you to put into your head, when you're going out to do any of your marketing, and even if you're a Brian Johnson doing a Facebook Live where you're talking to 1 million people, you got to pretend you're talking to Judy. Like, you got to pretend almost like what you and I are doing right now. We're talking to each other, right? And granted, there's a lot of people listening in, but there's something about talking to one in all of your marketing that's extremely powerful, because it changes the energy of what you're sending out there. Now, when you apply that to email in particular, it becomes even more powerful. And obviously, email technologies and autoresponders that are out there have the ability to do different field merges. The most popular one being the first name merge field, right? Where someone, depending on the whatever the technology is, whether it's Aweber or constant comment or whatever. Like, some of them are hashtags, some of them are weird things, but it allows you to essentially go, dear hashtag first name hashtag, right? Where you can actually insert that into the email, so that when the person receives the email, if you're using language that's one-on-one, hey, I'm speaking to you, and you're using their name, which is the most important word to them in their entire language, is their own name, right? Yep. I mean, we've proven that over and over and over again. And you can go back to all the books, like even like the Dale Carnegie books, How to Win Friends, Influence People, all that kind of stuff. The sound of a person's own name is their favorite sound. It's what gets their attention the most. So anyway, that said, when you write to them and you speak directly to them and ask them what they think, that's important to ask them to come back, right? And we've done stuff where we've even said, hey, look, even if you don't know the answer to my question, just click the reply button with nothing in the email, just to let us know you're thinking about it, right? Now, Kurt, how many times have we gotten back emails with nothing in there because people just click the reply button?
Yeah, which is great. I mean, it works for a lot of different strategies. The two main things is not only having it being whitelisted by other email services because people are engaging with you, but they're engaging with you. Here's the thing, and I say this all the time to Shecky when we're kind of behind our closed door meetings, and you guys have heard me say this on some of our live presentations. I'm like, I don't care what people justify with to take action. I just want them to take action, Whether they're like, hey, it's a 30-day money-back guarantee, that's the only reason I'm going to do it, or hey, I can earn $1,000 if I really learn how to do this, or hey, I can. We just want people to take. We just want people to take action, but they're going to take action on what their one thing is. Again, I could be really excited about, hey, let me show you how to scale a business. But if you're just getting started on Facebook, it doesn't really matter. But what happens is when people start to reply back with you, now they're engaging. They're replying back on an email and giving you an opinion. Read those and respond back to it. Some of the best people that I know that are really growing companies, they're spending time with customer service or in customer service. Like I get copied on all the customer service emails, and a lot of times I reply because I really want to know what people are saying. It's so funny, Shecky, when we talk to people and they're like, look, I want to automate my entire business. I don't want to talk to anybody. Now, Brian Johnson, perfect example. Brian's like, hey, Kurt, we're still working on my opt-in page. It's not working as well as I thought it would. And I go, that's fine. We still got likes. And I go, we got engagement. He's like, I got to pay my ad bill. It's a $300 bill that's coming up. And I'm like, look, you have qualified people. Do a boost post, Facebook Live. Tell people that you're happy to give them 15 minutes of content, or I like to say a free consulting call. Get him on the phone, talk to him. And he's like, Kurt, I don't know if I have time to get on the phone with all these people. And I go, people are raising their hand to get on the phone with you, and you don't know if you have time? He goes, well, it's not scalable. I go, well, listen to your people first. So he gets on the phone. He makes over $2,300 in the last, I think, 10 days now, just because he's talked to 23 people who bought at $97. But because they bought, he knows exactly why.
Yeah, that is such valuable information because he got it. He heard it directly from the horse's mouth. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And one side, with Shecky and I hear people say, I just want to automate the entire business. Well, it's not necessarily completely automated. That can happen, but you always have customer service to talk to your customers. People always have issues. But I'll tell you, when I very first got started out, and that's how Shecky really got started to work with us, is to help me run some numbers in the agency, but it really came down to every single person who purchases Social Media Ad Genius or Scale, we want Shecky to talk to them. Every single one. Because we want to know how can we further help. It helps out on our advertising, but it helps people take more action. And if they take more action and they're seeing more success, then they'll do more business with us. So that's one of the things that we have that's critical, that we have Shecky talk to every single one of our buyers. Now, we put that language in our ad in all of our presentations, but we are constantly figuring out from Shecky's documentation, what are people saying? So let's talk about some actionable things, that Shecky, and some next steps, right? So again, because we will be talking about this in the next couple of weeks, pick the book up, Ask. You can get it on Kindle. You can order the book itself. I don't remember how much it is exactly, but it doesn't really matter, because doesn't matter if it's $100 or $25. It's going to make you money when done right.
There's actually, I actually was sending somebody a link to it yesterday. There's actually an Audible version of it too. That's like $4. There's a Kindle version that's like $7 or $8. I mean, it's nothing. It's so worth it. And,
it's great.
And Ryan's a great guy, and there's really some good stuff about his personal story. And everybody's got challenges. When you read the story, it's like, wow, there's some real challenges that somebody, like, this is a really, in addition to the strategies that are in there, just the true grit of an entrepreneur, like just the story itself is fantastic.
Figuring it out, yeah. So
he's just a great guy.
What I want you to do is get the book Ask. Again, read chapter 13, very important. That'll show you the deep dive. Now, what's going to happen with the deep dive is a couple of different things. It's going to give you, whether you have a list or not, you can run like campaign to figure out what your deep dive for your avatar is. But what's going to happen is this is going to help you both on the email front, and it's going to help you on the advertising front, because it's going to help you get to more finite advertising. So just as I was helping a client the other day who was targeting 20 to 55-year-olds, those are 3 different generational age gaps that we want to take a look at for pictures and language. Okay, that's going to help us define a little bit more. Now, if we're running a like ad and we're not seeing the movement that we want, instead of targeting exactly this avatar, we may target a little bit wider avatar, but ask them to raise their hand on an easier question. So for Brian, it could be nutrition and entrepreneurs. It's 5 million people. That's great. But let's say it was nutrition, entrepreneurs, Austin, Texas. could be 300,000 people, much smaller audience. So he has the decision, does he want to pay a higher cost per like, right? Which he could be $1.50, or does he want to go national for like 9 cents, where he just widens that funnel and asks some, like he knows who he's targeting, entrepreneurs, nutritional. Now he just asks a really open-ended, easy question. Do you believe that great food can assist with proper nutrition, comma, like us? Do you love nutritional information, or do you, nobody really loves nutritional information. Do you love quick, easy, and effective nutritional tips, comma, like us, question mark. Now it's a much wider question where it's easier for people to raise their hand. But as you're always looking over your avatar information, you're always going to fine tune your ads based off who's responding. It's going to increase your relevance score. Also, when you get people who opt in, after 1,500 opt-ins, look at your audience, upload your email list into a custom audience in Facebook, use Audience Insights to find out even more information about your audience. The next thing, if you're getting leads but not any sales, one of the things you may want to do is send out a deep dive survey that Ryan talks about in chapter 13, and then ask people in that survey, with some of these answers, I would like to get deeper answers. Would you mind if I called you on the phone to ask you a couple of additional questions, as long as I promised not to sell you something? Shecky, here's a little golden tip. The reason that he asked that question and people give their phone number, because the people who give their phone number have an 80% more probability of purchasing products and services later on. Now, Ryan will call some people once in a while because he's his brand. It's just like that I'd call some people as well. But people that typically are willing to leave their phone number, at least just to answer basic questions, typically show a much higher interest in the products or services that he's talking about in a survey. Something like that's released in chapter number 13 as well. Doing a deep dive on your avatar is going to help your ad creation. It's also going to help your follow-up email. It's going to help your follow-up content. And at the end of the day, it's really going to drive your relevance score. So if your relevance scores are low, can you widen your funnel and make it easy for people to raise their hand and like? Also, are you looking at Audience Insights for your fan page and your email list if it's both above 1,500? And the number one thing, are you talking to one person to figure out what their one thing is? So Shecky, we've been talking a lot about the one thing. We've been talking a lot about, split testing to make sure it's the one thing. I always tell people to get back to the basics, especially with the avatar. Do you have any other comments that you want to talk about with helping define that avatar? Because we know a lot of people will say, hey, I think it's this person, but they're not buying anything, so it's not that person. But they don't know how to move from, I targeted one group, it didn't work, so I stopped. Would you talk a little bit more on how people can further define their avatar and keep moving?
Well, there's two things. One is I want to speak to those people that want full business automation, but I'm going to dial back around to that. But what you had a really just a great comment just now, and I just kind of want to give you props on that, is like when things are maybe defined a little bit too tightly, there's nothing wrong with that. That means you're behaving like a good marketer, like you're really getting your stuff dialed in. But when you can actually take a step back and say, okay, look, I'm going to widen the audience, right? So that allows me to speak in a little bit more generalities about my images and ad copy and things like that. But then I'm going to come back around and dial back and use the tools and the Audience Insights and those kinds of analysis to come back and find out where the demographics really are. Okay, so you made one extra step, right? Well, what kind of knowledge did you gain from that? It's like fantastic. So, good marketers are always going to operate based on, let's just say, educated guesses. We obviously, going in, we have to make certain assumptions, right? We have to. We got to have a starting point. We got to have a control. We got to have a benchmark. Okay, but the real smart ones are going to test everything and are going to look for other ways to, even like in this particular strategy, to back end into the testing, right? So because it's just a way for them to help them get that dialed in. So I just want to give you props on that because I think it's great. But to speak also now to the people that are looking for full automation, like, hey, I just don't want to talk to anybody, whatever. Okay, great, good for you. Get out of marketing. Because it's just that kind of attitude. Like, I'm not trying to be an ass. but it's really not, if you're going to be like completely lazy, then you're not going to ever be a really good or effective marketer. Okay.
Yeah.
No, the reality is, look, we are all exposed as marketers to a lot of messages and a lot of trainers of people that go like, hey, here's your push button riches, just hit here, I'm going to show you how to do this. Okay. Now we don't do that with our stuff, but we definitely talk about scaling, about ramping up, about getting profitable. So here's the thing, for anybody to have any kind of mastery in anything, whether it's marketing, you have to do that initial foundational work. One of the most important pieces of your foundational work is truly getting a serious grasp on who your customer, who your real avatar is. Like who is Judy, right? Like when you know that in your niche, you know exactly what Judy's all about and exactly, what keeps her up at night. Now you don't necessarily have to jump into every customer service call. Now you don't necessarily have to test everything because you know what language Judy speaks. Now it's just a matter of some pretty simple A/B split testing in your ads and that sort of thing. And now you're in a position where things are very, very scalable. Okay. But you've got to do that foundational work first to get to that point. So I would never go out. I mean, it's not right, like to use your word, Kurt. I think we would be doing a disservice to our audience to say, hey, let's show you just complete full automation, like just push button riches. Because I mean, there's a lot of really great softwares and technologies out there that can help automate certain processes. And there's fancier tools that even stuff that we use beyond just, like email automation that can integrate things and help you segment lists and all that kind of stuff. Yes, sure. They all need to be implemented. They all need to be tweaked. Like they're still, the foundational work of each one of those pieces still has to be done, right? And if you're willing to do that work, foundational work in each one of those areas, eventually you will have a business that is rock solid, that has good processes in place that allows you to scale really, really big without a whole lot of work. But you did that foundational work up front. You didn't just go like, hey, let me get right to push button riches, right? And if because we know a lot of them, Kurt, like if you speak to any of these other marketers that we know that are doing well, like, in masterminds, look at Ryan there's a perfect example. I mean, this guy beat his head against the wall for a couple of years and had some pretty significant health challenges on top of it, right? But he understood what he had to persevere through. He understood what kind of knowledge he had to get to. And as a result of really gaining an understanding about his avatar or avatars, because he's in multiple niches, developed his own way of finding out that information that he then tweaked into a system, which is now the system called the Ask method. So, there's a guy that took the foundational work to a whole nother level, right? And now, like we use that term, standing on the shoulders of giant nerds, like we did a webinar about that a few weeks ago. Now we can do that. We can stand on the shoulders of guys like Ryan and leverage all that work they've done and get to that good stuff way faster because of the methodology that he's developed, right? We don't have to develop it ourselves. Yeah. So it allows us to do that foundational work better, faster, stronger, smarter, but it's still got to be done.
Absolutely.
So, end rant.
No, it's just, I mean, it really does, because the interesting thing is, we were just talking about this on the bike ride. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I use a couple of different other choice words. But when people get frustrated with their campaigns, they're like, I didn't sell anything this week. Okay, great. Are we targeting the right avatar? Yes. Do you have a product service message that you can monetize? Yes. But you're not selling it. Right. Okay. But you got your avatar lined up. That's great. So maybe if we haven't sold anything, maybe we have to interview your avatar. Maybe we have to do a deep dive survey, which, again, right here, right? Maybe we ask a really quick question to our like campaign. What's the one thing Let's just say, for example, Brian's doing it with nutritional food. What's the one question that burns in your mind about your nutrition? Just either write my page or comment down here below. That could be a boost post he makes just to his fan page to find out more. He's just looking for one word, or he could email his entire list and say, what's the one thing that's holding you back from your perfect nutrition plan? Just give me one word. You're just looking for one word to find out. Do you get 3 or 4 people out of 10 that say they're more interested in watching their sugar intake? What is it exactly?
Yeah.
So ask what that one word is. Very, very, very important. Again, you can do this with Facebook boost posts. You can do this with your like page. But if you're qualifying likes, you have lots of opportunity to follow up. We got to make sure we're presenting them their one thing. And for me, and for Social Media Ad Genius and Shecky and the team, the scale method is 12 steps that we can show people how to quantify and scale their traffic. It's from people telling us, I'm stuck. Where are you stuck? I'm just stuck. But we got to give you a system to tell us, oh, you're stuck on question number 6 or step number 4. Great, here's what you do next. So that was our solution to the market, and with being proven to the market by the people who are just joining Scale, part of our Scale method, the results we're seeing already with early students is great. But it's all designed years around what our avatar has been asking for as well. So I can't stress this enough. If you have campaigns that you're running right now on Facebook and you've defined your avatar, great. Definitely be looking at your audience insights. Check out your email list. Do a boost post or even send out an email where you're asking people what's the big struggle you have with blank, the industry that they're in. Keep using the language of your avatar. Pick up Ask, because we're going to be talking about deep dive in some quiz and survey funnels the next couple of weeks, which can be one of the easiest and most efficient ways to figure out what does your avatar want, exactly what are the words they use to get what they want, and how do you provide the perfect solution to fill these two gaps or solutions to give you the perfect customer and the perfect buyer. And by the way, it's long-term, scalable, and repeatable. So if you're not making sales right now, but you're running like campaigns, you got lots of opportunity to follow up to figure out exactly what they want, asking simple questions by asking this book. Very simple. Shecky, is there anything else you want to go over in closing? Like, I know we spent a lot of time.
A reminder of because you just gave 3 or 4 things. I want to say just one last thing. I know I'm repeating myself. Talk to one person. Like, if I see you sending me an email that starts off with, "Hey everyone," after you see this video, I'm going to shoot you. Don't do that. Okay? It's just dumb. Like, it just like everybody go, well, I don't want to be an everyone. I want to be a Shecky. You want to be a Kurt. Like, people want to be treated like an individual. They don't want to be treated like an everyone. So it's one thing if we start a hangout like this, we know there's a lot of people here, and we start this off with, "Hey everyone, how's everybody doing?" Well, we know we're in a group setting, right? But if I write now and say, "Look, I'm talking to you," don't do that.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just making a point. So anyway, I know we're getting near the top of the hour. I don't really know the Hangout technology as well. Are there any questions pending? Because I can't see it from my end.
All I have to do is, let me check the link right here.
Because I've got a call coming up in 6 minutes. So we got the top of the hour coming, and I got to hang up on you.
Not a problem. Let me go ahead and take a look. And if anybody has any questions, just go ahead and put it in the comment section right down below this YouTube video. Let me see if I have any comments that are in here. Just to double check, it's loaded. How often do you update the avatar? Great question that was just posted here just recently. I'll answer that on here as well too. I'm always taking a look at the avatar and doing research at least once a month. So I'm going to say, let's see here, at Coach, yes. Oh yes, I like that. Great question. And I'll type it in here in just a second when I'm in it here as well too. But basically what we do is we take a look at the audience insights at least once a month. And at least once a quarter, I know that we're going to be adopting a deep dive survey that we're going to be sending out to our audience just to make sure that we're on par talking to the right people about the right things. So if you ever notice your opt-ins, the leads you're acquiring are dropping, if you ever notice you have lower quality scores, if you have already sold, one product and you have an additional product and service that you want to offer, Well, before you should do your test market, one of the things that you can do is to make it really easy and to do that deep dive survey with your audience as well too. So I like to ask questions early, often, and on a regular basis, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So great question. I see that question there. And Shanky, that's the only other question that we had.
Cool. So just an asterisk to the way you answered that question too. And, this is just coming from my frame as somebody who gets to, reach out to people when they buy any of our products, right? So to coach out there, I don't know really what niche you're in or what product you've got, but if you have an opportunity to call your customers when they buy whatever your digital product is, right? And just say, hey, I'm just calling, it's Coach. I'm just calling to say thank you, right? And, ask them a couple questions. What was it that cost you to buy this? What was your biggest problem? And listen very carefully, right? What's their language patterns look like? What kinds of problems? That process is just so invaluable to be able to really, really dial in your avatar, right? It's just going to give you some cross-section of information that you can't get anywhere. I mean, even if you look at audience insights, you can't hear the inflection in their voice. You're not communicating directly with another human. You're just looking at demographic data. So there's something about being on the phone with them that is just an unbelievably great process if it's used correctly.
Yep. I'm just putting this answer in here real quick. And an avatar deep dive quarterly. So one last kind of thing as I kind of wrap this up as well too, just to expand on my answer. One of the things you want to take a look at, let me go ahead and post that. One of the things that you want to take a look at is, all right, well, you're running ads and you're running a like campaign. Great. As you're running those ads and like campaign, like we did with Brian Johnson, we've shown in just a case study as well too, take a look, who's clicking on your ad, okay? Now, once you find out of exactly who's clicking on your ad, let's make sure it's the right demographics that we're writing for those demographics, right? If you are running an ad 20 to 55 and you see just a lot of 20 to 25-year-olds are clicking on your ad, well, then just run an ad for 20 to 25-year-olds. But I would also start split testing out just to like 25 to 30-year-olds, 30 to 35, just to make sure, where are the buyers at? The 20 to 25-year-olds, you might have a lot of clicks, but if you're using the language for a 45-year-old, you might not have a lot of buys. The only way you can test is by testing and verifying the ages. So one of the things that we do is we look inside of audience insights once a month. We look at our fan page insights once a week, Google Analytics once a week. And there, again, as Chris Mercer has said before that we've interviewed, there is no perfect data, but we get a really good idea of what the age and the demographics are. And then keep asking your regular deep question surveys as well too. It's going to define your marketing. It's going to help your marketing. It's going to help your relevance. And when it comes to scale, hey, how do I get more leads? How do I get more sales? I always go back. Let's take a look at the data of the avatar. Let's ask the right questions. Let's use the right language. And let's scale our business with simple math from there. So, Shecky, that's really all I got. We're right at the top of the hour. I want to appreciate, by the way, Shecky, we've already had a couple of people who joined our social media ad genius family, which if you click up in the right-hand side, there's a little icon. You can either see the Choose Your Own Adventure story. You can join our social media ad genius family if you want to know all about the scale and how do we do this step by step and how's our agency done it. How have we helped lots of other people on Facebook scale ads and thousands of students around the world. You can see the recording. Click up over there inside the little. It's called a YouTube card, and you can need to see where to pick up that Choose Your Own Adventure learning course that we have online. Or you can figure out a way to get started with us at Social Media Ad Genius as well too. All those links are up there. Just click on the card. Other than that, Shecky, I appreciate your time being here. Thank you very much, sir, and I look forward to having a great week.
Thank you. It's always great. I always enjoy these.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Take care.
Bye.